What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez. I'm joined by my friend Matt Llewellyn. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Zach. How are you?
Doing good. Guys, today we're going to cover 49ers as usual, and we're going to get right into it. Teams are able to, on Tuesday, the 19th, start opening up for their facilities for practicing and all activities. Now, this is dependent on what states you're in and what regulations they are allowing. With the situation right now in California and the uncertainty going on with the 49ers being able to practice or have any sort of activities, Matt, do you think that teams would have an unfair advantage if they are able to proceed in their states and the 49ers aren't?
It's a hard question to answer because there's so many moving pieces and things are kind of like some things are opening slowly, some things are staying closed. It would be a disadvantage if they can't use their home facilities, but I don't believe for 1 second that the 49ers wouldn't find some alternate facility. We know that when they go back-to-back on the East Coast, they usually stay in Youngstown, Ohio, I believe, and, have their training there. They have different facilities. I know there was talk earlier that if the situation carried on into the regular season, that the 49ers might actually play some games in Glendale. So there could be some situation worked out where maybe the 49ers work with the Cardinals and try to it's a division rivalry, but I mean, a lot of that is for the fans. I think on an actual team-to-team level, I think the NFL knows that it's a fluid situation and it's a difficult situation. I think that they would try to work together and come together on something that would allow the 49ers to at least, get out there in pads or, get with playbooks and stuff like that. Again, you have a disadvantage of not being in familiar territory and not having, the equipment and the facilities that you're used to. So in that regard, yeah, you could say that it's a disadvantage, but I don't think it'll be a huge disadvantage just because everybody's going to be distracted by the situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not like some teams are, able to proceed 100% as they normally would, and the 49ers are stuck at 0%. That's not really the case. It's kind of like bit by bit. You're going, like you said, it's fluid. Things are constantly changing. So it's going to be hard to tell. But kind of based on the way things have gone in California already, do you think there's any chance that they will have some sort of activities here at their facility?
It's hard to say. I feel like, it feels like this situation has been going on forever, but in reality, it's only been 2 months. So with, roughly 3 or 4 months to go before the actual regular season, 2 months to go before training camp really gets underway, you're looking at a situation where, things could change rapidly, any number of things could happen that could change the level of awareness for the current situation. Maybe some things move a little faster. Maybe some things move a little slower. At this point, I think it's too early to say. But if things were to maintain on the road that they're on and at the speed that they're on, I don't believe that the 49ers would be able to get into their facilities any earlier than, August or September.
Yeah, I actually really agree with that. I don't think that just based on the current trajectory and how things have gone so far, it doesn't look good for them being able to practice here in Santa Clara or hold any sort of off-season activities. I was reading an article by Bleacher Report recently, and they were talking about how I believe 75 was the maximum amount of coaches and staff that are able to be, players and staff that are able to be in the facility at any time. And even though you are able to split that amount up into multiple facilities, if they are open and able to, host anything, it still caps it at 75. I don't know. I don't really understand the reasoning as far as even if it's in multiple facilities, it still has to be 75 no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's just to put a number on something. Because if you can get away with something, you're going to. The other thing that we need to look at is, maybe some of these teams aren't going to have some of the coaches or trainers or, people. If they're in an at-risk group throughout this whole thing, they might just decide to stay home and then they're working short-staffed anyway. So again, it's one of those things where it's a really fluid situation. We really don't know what's going on, and we won't know until we get much further down the road and closer to the season. Ideally, it would be great, even if there were no fans in the stadium, if we could get the teams to their facilities. The 49ers should play at Levi's. The Rams and Chargers should be opening up SoFi Stadium. The Raiders should be opening up Allegiant Stadium. They should be in where they go, just for the sake of making it as logistically easy as possible, because if you're trying to shovel, there was a report that maybe the Rams and the Chargers could go to Las Vegas, and that Las Vegas would be playing 48 games in Allegiant Stadium during the regular season. That sounds like a logistical nightmare to me. Yeah. On top of all of the testing that you have to do, make sure social distancing norms are maintained, make sure that everybody's safe, and make sure everybody's being monitored. All the steps you have to take with staff, players, media, everything like that. Making sure that the players can play in their home stadiums, get to their home facilities, I think is of the utmost importance, outside of, being safe, of course.
Yeah, I can't imagine having 3 teams in one facility and proceeding with the whole season like that. It's going to be tough. Now, let me ask you this, Matt. We saw for the first time ever, the 2020 NFL draft was held, virtually. Everybody was through laptops, through phones. Mm-hmm. And we saw a lot of coaches and staff come out afterwards saying, we really enjoyed this. We don't know why we weren't doing more of this before. They found out they could actually do just as much from home than at the facility, and they weren't spending as much time away from their families. Now, innovation is kind of the birth child of necessity and circumstances. Is there any way that
flip that, right? Necessity is the birth of innovation.
Yes.
Necessity of the mother of innovation. Yeah.
Yes. So
anyway.
Yeah, necessity is the birth of innovation. And do you think that there's a scenario here where the teams, A, find a way to work around it? I mean, they obviously will find a way to work around it. And B, find out that they actually prefer a more hands-off approach, a more kind of virtual approach, and implement that moving forward even after the situation has concluded?
I don't think that the draft is the same as a training camp or a preseason. Simply because in a draft, what you're doing is you're picking names off of a board based off of information that you've gathered either through film or in person throughout the season. Let's not forget that for the entirety of last season up through the combine, each team had their scouts and player personnel out there to kind of, scout who was going to be what. And even though the draft went smoothly, when it comes down to it, the draft is a very kind of a logistical sort of thing. It's a very administrative type of situation where it's like, okay, well, we have X, Y, Z. X does this, Y does this, Z does this. Now we have to pick one of these. It's one of those things. Whereas training camp and preseason, we're installing playbooks, and I need to see that you're doing this play right. And if you're not doing it right and there's something subtle there, right, I could walk up to you and say, hey, you need to kick your foot out this way on this type of block, or you need to get your hands X, Y, Z, rather than trying to do it through video and then there's confusion. It's the difference between saying something to somebody in person and texting it to them. Some context is going to be lost, even though we have great video equipment, stuff like that. Technology is great, but there's something to be said about, a coach grabbing you by your pads and moving you over 6 inches to where you're supposed to be. And I think with the intricacies in NFL offenses and defenses nowadays, you cannot take away the actual hands-on coaching that the players need to kind of get everything together.
And, another thing too, on top of that, is kind of the team building, the camaraderie that you build when you're spending hours and days together with your team. How many times do you hear of players in the NFL developing chemistry, whether it be quarterback, receiver, whatever the case may be, because it all started that they roomed together in training camp. Stuff like that, it builds, block after block under a relationship. And then when it comes down to 4th and goal, 30 seconds left in the game, you need to win it. You can trust that guy. You have chemistry with that guy. So I agree with you. Unfortunately, I don't think that there's going to be any sort of chance here that they prefer this and that they're able to implement virtual training or off-season camps, whatever the case may be, moving forward. I think the NFL and 49ers specifically are probably just waiting for this situation to pass, waiting for things to get back to normal, because this has all been a pretty big setback. I don't think that's a hot take to say for the NFL, for the teams.
No. So it's been a step back for all sports,
Yeah, for life in general.
Yeah, cut off basketball season, baseball hasn't started yet, and then it could bleed over into the football season. So, we need to really kind of watch and see what the NFL does, and I'm sure that they're going to take every step necessary to normalize the process as much as they can with safety in mind. And like I said, it's just right now I think it's too early to kind of have any great prediction of what's going to happen because, like I said, it's been 2 months and things have changed immensely over the course of those 2 months. So from here on out, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's just true. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait and see how things play out. That's going to do it for us today, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our handles will be below on the screen. And, make sure you leave a comment. Do you think that this will have a massive impact on teams? Do you think they'll find a way to work around it? Leave your thoughts below. And make sure you subscribe, guys. Once we reach 250 subscribers, we will be giving away a 49ers jersey. Make sure you're included. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at 49ers Hive as well, because there's a separate giveaway going on there, and Instagram as well. So you don't want to miss out. That's 3 chances to win a jersey. What are you doing missing out on that?
Click the bell for the notifications, too, to get all your videos as soon as we drop them.
And make sure you check out 49ershive.com and hit the Shop 49ers Hive tab. Use code JS74 for 15% off your purchase. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.